Good day. Today I'm here with Edison Agbanji from Ancestral Essence. Edison is my spiritual teacher, and the reason I want to have this conversation with Edison today is because the classes have helped me come to such a place of clarity in my personal life, in my spiritual life, even in my business life, which everything affects. And is based on the programming that I've received as a man from boyhood and all of those programs that didn't work for me that I've had to unlearn and then relearn new programs that actually protect me. So it's been like taking on an antivirus for my CPU, which is perfectly comparable with the computers. So, good afternoon, Edison.
Dean, how you doing there, my friend? How you doing?
Fantastic, sir.
Excellent.
Tell us,
Excellent.
tell us a little bit about what is behind Ancestral Essence.
Ancestral Essence was our attempt to try and reintroduce the whole notion of ancestral and African spirituality back into the populace. The problem that we've had over the years is because of, how do you say, other religious organizations trying to create this fear of, what Africa has contributed to the world, their understanding of reality. And they've not wanted the people around the world to really take on a challenging idea. So through my years of going through various forms of African spirituality, but also going through Islam, Christianity, and general, not say a cult, but those sciences from the Western perspective. We came to the conclusion eventually that North, East, and West, home is best.
Yeah.
So we ended up back where we started from, and with the connection to my ancestors, which I've subsequently gone to show many people to do afterwards, we were able to see what this world reality story is made of. And we were able to look at ways we can deprogram people's minds, as you said in the introduction, so that people now can function from themselves. The whole concept was to sell you back yourself. Everyone else wants you to follow this and follow that and follow this. And I don't want anyone to follow me. I just want them to follow their thoughts inside themselves. So the legacy of what all of their ancestors that are part of their blood, part of their DNA, part of their own sort of intelligence and their interface into this world, they have all that wisdom, knowledge inside of them. We want them to reconnect to that so that they can see all the real power that they have at their disposal and how they've been, how do you say, living inside their own mind, but with someone else's rules.
Absolutely. That brings me perfectly to one of the most important things you said to me right at the beginning, in that there's nothing wrong with us, but there's something wrong with our story. Tell me about that.
Well, most people are not living their life. They're living their story. They've created a program for all the information that they've been given. And this program, they've created a set of instructions of what they should feel guilty about, what they should feel happy about, what they should try and achieve. And the problem is, none of those aspirations are their own. It's still the simple boy meets girl, boy gets involved with girl, boy finds ways and woman finds ways to live a life together. And through all the trimmings that we have on the outside, that is still the actual thing that we're living to do. Thing is, now we've got seduced by the external story. So people are now focused on, I want a career over a relationship. I want to be, and for women, poor things, because they were introduced into the workplace, they had to become men in their workplaces, and as such now, there's been this whole mix match where the men not sure what they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to live at, and again, there's this crazy confusion amongst men to be more masculine when, or to be more aggressive when they're not naturally that way.
Yeah.
You know? So in this confusion and no one knowing what the traditional society and couple and how to conduct yourself is supposed to be like, we've now been given this modern version that doesn't work. We can clearly see.
Yeah.
So with the guidance that you have within yourself, with the conversations that you have inside yourself, we want you to reconnect to those things, and so that your story is the one that you were born to have, not it's not one that someone has decided that's all you can have.
Absolutely. So for me, in taking that on board, it was becoming a lot quieter, becoming less embroiled with all of the stories that are going on externally. There's always some oppression, there's always some story, something has happened. And what I had done over the course of 3 years is just run away from myself with everybody else's story, under the illusion that I'm in service of other people, where really there's very little that I can actually do about it personally. And like when people say that 10,000 hours of building something to mastery, until you're by yourself and you create something, there actually isn't anything for you to do with anybody else. You can come and say some nice words that contribute to the story, but in actuality, I realized that it was a fallacy that I was actually doing anything other than making people feel a little bit more comfort. And that's wonderful. But I knew the fraud within myself of just being there in person and saying nice words actually changes nothing of the structure of this matrix. You're going to be by yourself. And this is why my favorite rapper, Jay-Z, will always give me the lines. Until you're by yourself, you can't be me. Until you're by yourself, you can't be free. And he followed that up in 2016 with how we're still going to be slaves in 2016. But we are slaves to stories based on the tenets of religion. And we see it all the way from COVID down now to the war. And there was such a smooth transition, just a cut, not a fade, a direct cut that says, leave that story, now follow this story. What's about the lines of programming that affect our operating systems?
Well, your child that you send to school is of value to you. But as soon as it enters the classroom, it's stripped of any value. This child now, unless it actually memorizes and at speed can recite what is informed or programmed or uploaded to the child is deemed useless to society and to itself. It doesn't know what is the world and what it entails, because that's only an idea that it has inside its brain. But it does know that it's deemed a loser. It's less than. And by those who have created that system, they haven't entirely told the whole truth. And they know behind much of what they've said, it's been very much skewed in the direction of a few. Yeah, the entirety of history, the different groups are told in ways in which people can't garnish any sort of support from, because people need a foundation. They need to know some people like them has done something in order to step on that idea, to know that they have the value to create that within themselves.
Yeah.
So the matrix, I always say, is the initiation into the story that now has been proliferated as the truth, which is just a version that has had you say the best crimes are hidden by the pen. They can just be written out of history, so no one's aware of what's taken place. So for us now, we have been brought up in a mindset where someone has told us that unless we aspire and worship them, we are worthless to ourselves and
Absolutely.
to society. So therefore, you find that you take on an artificial aspirations to be something that you're never going to be really appreciated as. And the actual true journey that you came with within your mind, within your consciousness, to become something, to see the people you're supposed to see, to meet the people you're supposed to meet, and to have the experiences you're supposed to have, has now been sidetracked with you having to work as a slave in a game where someone is giving you to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll never, ever achieve what you want. All you'll achieve is someone else saying you've done well. You internally will not feel the actual progress because it's external progress that you've actually achieved.
Yeah.
Your internal development of yourself and becoming that person you know that's inside. Most people are suffering because they said, you know what, I know that I'm better inside. There's a better version of me inside me. But it's inside you. But you're looking outside for it. And you're wondering why. Whenever you go to all these different people, they can never say enough to you to make you feel that inside development.
Yeah.
Now, the wild thing is, the world is only your perspective. If you've not been to Afghanistan, you can't tell us what's going on over there. You can't tell us what's going on in Siberia. You can't tell us what's going on in Africa. So the world is only your experiences as an individual. And what you're only ever trying to fix is your belief or your moral understanding about your experiences. You're only ever trying to fix your own opinion. But your logic is based on your experience and knowledge. And if you have no knowledge other than what someone else has given you, and you can only recite what other people have said, then you're not really here. You're not really in the game, are you?
Absolutely.
All you're doing is a caricature that someone wrote for you, and you're wondering why you can't feel no satisfaction. You can't buy back your respect for yourself. No matter what you have, you're still going to be in a situation where you're waiting for someone else to say, didn't you do well?
Yeah.
And that comes again from the education system, where essentially you had to do well to receive the qualification to give you validation and to give you value. And if you fell in the qualifications to memorize and recite, you've got no validation that you're intelligent. So you perceive yourself as having no value.
Absolutely.
And therefore, this little child that went Tandulon to school, now at 18, is this, depressed person thinking, how am I going to go out into this world when I haven't got what I need? And the people that created the system don't actually have to apply by those rules.
No. I realize I always knew that school was an indoctrination system, but I never actually realized the in your face power of that indoctrination until I'd gone to see a play before I took my boy out of school. So from 5 to 7, my son attended state school, and then we homeschooled him. But the children were talking before the play started, and the teacher said, "Children," and nobody listened. And then they went, and every child's head spun round like a walk, and there was absolute silence. All the parents looked at each other, horrified. And all the teacher did, and every single child was immediately had been programmed to be silent and complicit.
Thank you. Thank you. We say that a teacher, a preacher, and a politician are trained hypnotists. 3 is the magic number. They constantly say things in 3 repetition sequences, and as a result, the people have been trained to respond according to how that teacher or what the teacher has said. It's the same thing with how do you call it? Language.
Yeah.
Now, language, believe it or not, is a religion. And this is a tough one because everyone said, I speak and this and that, but you were not born innately with that language. That which you have to be taught is not natural. Language and time are not natural phenomena. Money is obviously a way in which someone has stolen your value and put it onto paper. But those other 2 things when you come out as a child, you're speaking your what is perceived Google Gaga, but you're actually speaking your own language. We in our courses have gone on to prove that you have
Wow.
language within you, and you can communicate the words for every single thing in this world. You have a term from in yourself naturally, and you're not even aware of this language until someone pushes you and says try it, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have terms. But what everyone has done is literally the way in which language works. Let's give this is people say a word, and then as a result of the word that they use, you create a picture in your mind. If a word doesn't have an image, it's deemed abstract because you can't actually see what is being said. So what tends to happen is someone will say something, you don't listen, you build an image in your mind. You build like a mini movie taking place, basically putting what the person has said into some sort of logical sequence within yourself. And then after you've done that, you sit there, you have a conversation and say, well, does that make sense? Is this, is this that? And then you're actually engaging with what the person says in an emotional sort of visual image way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're teaching a language, what you have to do is rob the child of their natural images that they have for their words, and you impose a different set of images with a corresponding sound. So what tends to happen is you will say a word, a child will be taught a set of words, given a set of images to now correspond with those words. So now when a language is being used, you now only have those words in order to create the images that you see in your mind.
Yeah. That was another very powerful thing that we learned, in that if we can't turn words into pictures, we can't actually store it in our minds and be able to translate it into things that we can adopt. So we have to visually see these words, which is why a language for us has become so important. Tell us a little bit about how we access this language.
This language, sorry, my screen may have frozen, but
Yeah.
again, hopefully you can hear me clearly. This language is something which you have, this is where you start moving into the innate part of yourself, the part of you that as a child knows how to walk, learns how to talk, learns how to be able to, you know how it is, a baby is born, and one of the few things human babies have is that they know how to look for the mother's breast. They
Mm-hmm.
know how to search their mouth and take that action. That is one of the programs that are inbuilt in them. The
Yeah.
same with their sexual attitudes to life and stuff like that. There is a whole set of programs that are innately built inside you, which ultimately you find come on cue at certain times in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And your language is also part of that. So we really just put your mind in a state where you can bring it forward and shut down the English or whatever French or whatever language that has been uploaded to you, that has robbed your ability to go within yourself to see how much you're really capable of. When you're
Yeah.
speaking your own language, it's not what we call English select. Because in English, you're always trying to select the right word for the
Mm-hmm.
environment you're in. So a lot of your power is lost in the actual selection of the word according to who you're talking to. If it's
Yeah.
someone you perceive as higher than yourself, you're more demure, you're more soft in your
Yeah.
delivery. Whereas if it's someone you feel is your equal, you're more comfortable, you're more relaxed. So you're always changing your words and tones and everything according to your environment. When you're speaking in your actual language, it's raw strength, it's raw power, and you see the vibration of the room and the vibration of everything around you changes much more dramatically because you're communicating with your energy as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to you're communicating with somebody else's energy. And again, you're always more in a apologetic state unless you've lost yourself or lost your control. And then that's a whole nother subject of energies
Yeah.
taking over your mouth and then having you speak on their behalf.
So in essence, there's so much that we have to unlearn and then relearn, which is all of that at our core. And one of the most powerful things I took away from this was actually coming into communication with my people. So when we say our people, our ancestors who run through our blood, people who've passed over, our grandparents, aunts, uncles. So the second week of the course, my aunt came to me, and I didn't see her in the time that she had passed. I hadn't seen her for about a decade. And when she came to me, she was a little bit coy. And the key was just to let her know that it was all right, that we were all right. And she'd had an ectopic pregnancy. And when she was leaving, her face was half away from me, and she said, "You can meet my son if you like." It was a very powerful meeting, and that was literally the second week of the course.
It is amazing because you've always had these ancestors around you. Or let's put it this way: in order for you to function in this world, you must conversate within yourself. You must have a point where once you've collected all the images, you have a little discussion with a voice inside you. Now, sometimes these voices are, what do you say, encouraging, and sometimes these voices are discouraging. Let's use simplicity. Now, what we try to, not we try to do, we just get you to be able to separate the ability to have what type of voices come to you. Your ancestors have always been part of your internal conversations. They've always been there trying to guide you. There's many a time you've had a situation where you heard some advice within you and you didn't take it, and later on you said, you know what, I knew that was going to happen. I shouldn't have gone there. I shouldn't have given him that. I shouldn't have given her that. I shouldn't have done this. You have all those voices working within you all the time. And all we do is, because we say we're just giving you back yourself, we put you back in contact with the voices inside you. This isn't one of those things where you've got to go on a mountain or go here or pray 20 times a day. None of those things, because we're not trying to get into any religion or anything you pray to. All we're really trying to do is get you to interact with you. So you're now in a situation where you have a conversation, granddad, what's going on? Grandmother, what's going on? And you will hear the voice within you, like you hear all the other voices all the time, but there'll be a sense of clarity. There'll be a sense of we're actually giving you some advanced premonition of what might happen, because we are stuck in clock time. We're not stuck in real time.
Yeah.
Our body does not vibrate at the level, it doesn't vibrate in sync with the clock. We've naturally had to shut ourselves down or speed ourselves up in order to fit in with clock time.
Yeah.
So if you actually go into nature, slow yourself down, have a look at the trees, you'll actually see them moving. You'll see the leaves moving. You'll see the tree actually moving. The tree is alive. It's a living being. But because we're so busy, oh, I've got this, I've got that list, I've got this list to do, things to do. I'm emotionally I'm up behind in fear, and this has emotionally impacted me.
Yeah.
So we're in a situation where we don't engage with life. We engage with the clock, which is then the prison that holds our story. First thing you do when you wake up is look for what time it is.
Yeah.
Your way of clocking into the world. You've clocked into the matrix. What time is it? Okay. What have I got to do to now, this, today, tomorrow, what have you? And all of a sudden, you go through the process of going through the future of your day, then going back to what you did yesterday, and try and see how you marry the two so you have a clear idea before you get out and do what you have to do.
Guilty.
Yeah. And so straight away, we've clocked into the matrix. We've clocked into the set of rules which society has done. And we haven't engaged as ourselves at all. We're just working through programs. We brush our teeth. We don't even know, did we brush our teeth? Did we do this? Did we do that? Half of the processes you do throughout a day, your body is actually been trained to do these things.
Yeah.
Body has taken over many of it. If you say it's a delegation, you've delegated all the actual actions to your body. So you're off in la la land, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, in a constant state of reflection and planning.
Yeah, and we're robbing ourselves of the present and our experiences.
And we're not here. We're somewhere else, doing something else for someone else.
On autopilot.
Autopilot. So you can go through 20, 30 years of this and you'll never have enough money because what's the two things we never have enough of? Time
and money.
And
both
are man-made concepts. None of them are actually real. The concept of money, we say that the whole concept of education was not to prepare you for life, was to prepare you to worship, because we say they're not teaching you to worship religion, because religion is really just a debate. There's so many different ones that nobody cares.
Yeah.
What they're really getting you to worship is money.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the time you're an adult, someone can give you a piece of paper and you're ready to give your life for that paper.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not many of us would give our life for God, but would give our life for money, God. Yeah,
110%.
That was the real trick.
Even to how you break down the desire for our attention, because this is what religion truly is. It does, as I say, like a war. This is the Ukraine has become a religion because there's such a desire for our attention. So the first thing they do is create the entire story. Where was the humanity of the people being bombed in Iraq, which was an illegal invasion, when they counted down for 4 hours to what they had called shock and awe, where they're going to drop $1 billion worth of bombs on Iraqis? We didn't look at the aftermath. We didn't say 37 people died today, because if 37 people died in Iraq, it wouldn't even be newsworthy. None of us would have turned our heads, because the story had stripped them of their humanity so that none of us cared. And then how is it that those people whose sovereign nation was invaded became insurgents and terrorists? And now the radicalization of Europeans is being celebrated as heroes and resistance. So the whole thing is only ever a story and propaganda, but using the tenets of religion that is thirsty for our attention. And our attention is fleeting. It went all the way from thinking we may die tomorrow, so we have to take 3 vaccinations, to not caring one iota about that. Every single protocol being dropped in public buildings. And now we're all onto the Ukraine and celebrating these people, where we can get a new emoji on social media that says we're behind them, because we've been trained and taught in a very short duration of time by the system that controls how we think and now gives us our values.
Yeah. The irony of it all is the fact that we are, how do you say, one massive programmed mind. We went through an education system that essentially cloned everyone to have the same attitudes towards the same things. Religion was introduced in the nativity play, where children that never ever thought about anyone dying at that age were introduced with a concept of someone dying to save them. That program was installed in the children when they were unable to mentally challenge what was being uploaded to them. Yeah. They knew not of the subject, so it was brand new, so they took it as it was said to them. The problem that we actually have now is we were given, like I said, with the language, we were given labels. And as long as the right people said the right labels, like a computer program and entering a code, we behaved accordingly. So you have a situation where some people will use the word war, and other people will use the word invasion, and other people will do exactly the same thing and say that they're coming to help the people. The action is exactly the same, The terms are different. The terms invoke different emotions with us. And when we hear what we feel behind these wars, we actually feel different. When a country is invading someone and it's so obvious they get a win, that's not a war.
Yeah.
That is an invasion. And we've seen this happen across the years recently, well, more than recently, by various people. There's other people that are dying in Africa. Yeah. Literally through other countries having their own little mini wars, per se, at
Yeah.
the same time, simultaneously. To go through it, we're not really saying anything new, but people need to look beyond what the media is trying to craft their mind to say. So they now know, especially after the last couple of years, the old, remember, if anyone remembers the old, what's the old game? Simon Says. So now Simon says, sit down. Simon says, set up. Simon says, turn around. And then when Simon doesn't say it, you've got it wrong. So
Yeah.
now you have a situation with the way in which they prime people, program people from when they were young. All the government has to say, everyone will follow without thinking in any way. So they can say we have a virus, we have this, we have that. Some people died, of course, and which was very unfortunate. But it would appear that more people died under COVID than under this war
Yeah.
at the moment, from what we're seeing. And more people are dying in other places around the world where it's not being notified. And how much people, be honest, die from starvation every day? How many
Mhm.
kids are dying around the world? But it's not newsworthy. It's not worth mentioning. They have to invoke the story that garnishes as much sympathy as possible so that they can emotionally lead you to paralyze yourself. They
Yeah.
worked out a long time ago that love is blind, but fear paralyzes you. So if
Yeah.
we can emotionally capture your mind and put you into our story, we can feed off your emotion and have you following us, giving us what we ask for. Because at the end of the day, this makes no sense. Money is war.
Yeah.
So who's spending the money and who's making the money in
Yeah.
this situation? And you've noticed how everything has gone up, but essentially Russia's not over here. We're not over in Russia. So what is the justification for everything rising up? And we're working like this stuff that they're collating, if it be oil, if it be this. Has the earth ever given anyone permission to take anything? No. Has the earth ever been paid back from what it's been taken?
Never.
So all it is individuals who control the actual collection of these resources are the ones deciding on the price. Someone says, I want to raise the price. And then one says, but why? You're getting it out of the ground. It's not like you're having to pay anyone for this. But you can just you can just raise the price. You can raise this, put people under pressure. So because they're so focused on trying to survive, they don't appreciate what these people are doing with their lives.
Yeah.
And these people can anytime turn around and say, we're going to stop caring about this thing now. You don't have to self-isolate. You don't have to do anything. No more masks, all of that. Walk around happy, go lucky. And everyone's like, huh? Why did I do this and go through that when this is now just treated as a normal flu? In fact, even less than a flu, because with
Yeah.
at least they will tell you to go home and don't spread it to anyone. Now you got COVID, come on in. You still can come to work. There's no issue. So we can see this is a pantomime that's played by people that control the game. And they
Yeah.
can do whatever they like at any time because, like the game Simon says, as soon as they say something, the majority of people that believe in the system because the system has somehow been good for them or they can't imagine anything outside of that,
Yeah.
just happily go along with their happy fear. Yeah, that they're doing the right thing. And all of us that may say, no, we don't agree, we think for ourselves, we're chastised. We're told that,
Yeah.
we're this, we're that. Names are made up for us, like names have always been made up by conquering armies. against the
Exactly.
people that they're fighting against, so that they can validate that no one will have any sympathy towards the people that are there. Look how Russians, poor ordinary Russians, are being vilified.
Yeah.
Like they had a choice. Like they sat down and asked them, what do you want to do? Go into Ukraine? They said, no, of course we don't want to go into Ukraine. What do we want to do that for? But because the power's not in their hands, people are still vilified. And I'm like, what did this Russian person do to you?
But you say it all the time. When the insights stop, the insults start, because it's a way of shaming, and it's a way of framing how we think. It has nothing to do with morality. It's how they want to frame our thinking that takes us away from our own independent thinking, or anything that is generated by us. You gave the case of a serial killer who may have killed 5 people. We'd envisage him as the most morally reprehensible man on earth. But if that serial killer were an army sniper who shot people from a quarter of a mile away and happened to have clocked up 215 bodies, he'd be a hero that we dedicate a $60 million movie towards, and his name will go down in history as a hero, and they'll make statues after him. But he's killed 215 people. It's just who the permission base of who he was told that he could kill. And
100.
now we tell you he is a hero, whereas this person has no morality whatsoever and is the most morally reprehensible. None of it has anything to do with morality. It's just a story.
The irony of it, isn't it? It's the saying we say, it's only murder when it's not government sanctioned. And government is just a group of men, not no spiritually divine beings, that say it's okay to take another life if it suits our purpose, if it suits what we're trying to achieve from their business mind or business end. The concept of taking a life, again, goes back to the whole Bible paradigm, but everything on this planet, all the people that are in positions where they can dictate what other people do, did so by taking lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did so because in England, there's only one army, the Queen's Army.
Yeah.
Unless it's the Salvation Army. That's about it. But in reality, there's only one army on purpose, because her army is the one that is the strongest on the land. Therefore, she has the power to dictate and control. This is what has happened. It's just people now have been told that, no, you must, petition, do this, do that, do this, march, do all these different kind of things to persuade the people who are in power to change their mind towards you. But in honesty, they're the ones who create the paradigm of where you feel you are. They're the ones that provided the education system to have you feeling less about yourself, when, this is just a version of the truth that has been told.
Yeah.
So it's a madness at this minute, because you really want people to be able to fight for themselves within themselves.
Yeah.
If you don't have a sense of, what's this saying? We stand all together, but we fight as individuals. And your actual personal issues that you have within your mind, when you can't balance your thoughts, when you feel like you're not receiving enough love, which is really a deficit of what you haven't got within yourself.
Yeah.
Much of how you feel about yourself is stripped away as your child. A young child, as soon as they don't pass those exams when they're a kid, 11 plus 16, they then fall out of love with themselves. At that point is when they start to devalue themselves in the eyes of the world. And now, in order to prove themselves, they have to prove to the people that have given those exams that they have to work harder, sacrifice this, sacrifice that, and create a paradigm where that person is always going to be ahead of them. And they spend the rest of their life trying to prove to somebody else that they're good enough. So that system is set up from your school days. Are you good enough for someone else to give you the credit?
Yeah.
And people take that on and then ask it of their family, ask it of their loved ones, ask it of their workmates, always in a state of deficit,
Mm.
always needing someone else to give them more before they value themselves. And just because as a young child, they were robbed of their self-worth by someone saying, if you don't pass what we told you to think, you have failed.
Yeah.
And as soon as you fade and you perceive yourself failure, loser, you're trying to regain your respect for yourself, which someone else stole.
Mm.
Imagine how you're walking through life, feeling down, looking at the ground, when all people are equal. Everyone came to this world exactly the same way. The only difference people have is who controls the resources.
Absolutely.
And those who control the resources control the story and made sure that in the story they were given glory, even though they didn't take it in honest ways sometimes.
Yeah. And you know, when if we can agree that their system isn't based on morality, they have trained us to enter into contracts without knowing, where we capitulate, but there's no necessity for us to capitulate because we are actually sovereign. We don't know what the term means. We don't know what it means in conjunction with spirituality.
Yeah.
And the fact that our soul sources come from different planets is to the degree that we'll be resistant to their ideas. There are some of us, I always knew that what I was being taught in school never resonated. Only I didn't feel the need to be quiet. So I would often find myself outside a classroom because there wasn't room for debate. You can only have one captain of a ship.
That's right.
Now, if everybody has to man their port and do what they're supposed to do, be quiet, look down, crack on, adopt this for a purpose. Now, if in my chest is fizzy like a can of Coca-Cola that's been shaken, and I can't hold that in, I won't fit in. And I'll become an outcast immediately. And that was what led me to advocacy, because I was always an outcast within their system. I couldn't be quiet. My chest would become fizzy because their frequency never ever resonated with me. So what I learned from this class is to know thyself. How did you come up with the concept of know thyself and the chapters within the 10-week courses?
I have to be honest. I've been speaking to my ancestors for quite a while. And it's something we teach, which you're about to go into the next week, hopefully tomorrow, what have you, where we set up a thing called an ancestral council. Where what happens is within your mind, you can create rooms and spaces. This is where you can create a room. You're sitting down at a table, and around you is all your ancestors. You'll see the ones that vibrate, and you'll be able to communicate with them like you're communicating with me. You'll set up your own meeting, and from your own meeting, they will then, because you're no longer vibrating in the story that you're in, because as soon as you open your eyes to your belief.
Yeah.
Belief isn't just a religion. Belief is reality. That you believe that this stuff is. So as soon as you open yourself, clock in via your watch to see what time is, process to do your day, you're no longer operating as yourself. Yeah. Slavery begins there. It doesn't begin when someone says you're a slave. It's not the act. It's not the word. It's the act. When you're functioning to support other people's systems, other people's situations, living to make everyone happy, you're giving up your soul or your spirit in order to finance the reality that you're in. Yeah. And everyone will take that, because in asking you to do it, you can raise them at the expense of yourself. Yeah. So therefore, what happened was, when I learned to communicate with my own language, when I learned to be able to set up the ancestral councils, I would spend hours over there, and they would be breaking down different concepts to me, different ways in which everything is put together. And because because I actually love what I do. And I love my whole idea and ethos is from people to get to one place for another. Over the 10 years that we've been working, every time I'll do a course, I'll reevaluate and say, okay, what did we miss there? What did the people need there? What is a good thing to be introduced there? So we started off, especially the first week is really just the getting to know you, the big conversation. Everyone comes with their questions. That can take up to 4 hours in itself, because everyone has been brought up with all these different belief systems, ideas, concepts, and we want to go through all of these things so that everyone now has got it out of their system. Because what we realized, the art of listening is the art of maintaining or creating pictures. So if someone actually has a question in their mind, if they can't get it off, they're still looking at that question in their mind, and they can't actually listen to anything you're saying, because they're still holding that question in their mind. It's one of those things we explain. People can't hold two images at one time. So when someone can't hear you, it's because they've already got an image that they're not ready to let go of. So they're not going to allow you to come and alter it with your words. They get a hold of this image and say, no, I'm comfortable with this image, I'm not going to take it. And whatever you're saying, you're not going to change it. Religious, you know what I mean? Beware. This is really what it all is. They've been uploaded with something. So what we realized, first week, we get that out of the way. Second week, history of the world, we get it out the way. Where if it be religion, how it was created, get into the truth behind it, because people have a lot of faith, but very little fact. When you challenge them, they go, boy, I need to go back to the past, to this person, that person. And we have a saying that if all you're going to quote is the book, then all I need is to pick up the book and you're redundant.
Absolutely.
Worthy of conversation, because I can find everything you're going to say inside the book.
So but it's literally, it is the code for their program and their operating system.
Their blueprint. It's the blueprint. But that is written by someone else. Because so you can imagine this whole blueprint of who you came to be, you sacrificed to use the blueprint of this book. So you as an individual, your essence for being here is redundant if you're going to use this book as a blueprint and not bring anything else.
Yeah.
So again, we realize we have to shake that out of your system, because if you maintain that in your mind, you can't go behind into your real self. You're stuck in this vibration of listening to what everyone says, the program they gave you as a child, and you can't develop yourself. Only financially. We have a saying, if the church was poor, no one would go there. No one would walk through the door. If they didn't have the money, they wouldn't bring anyone in.
Yeah.
Because they're so rich and because they're so powerful, people want a bit of that. Yeah, so therefore they're going to go to those places. And what do people pray for? They pray for hope. They don't pray for knowing. They don't want to know what's going on. They just want to pray that it doesn't impact them.
And that hope is for hopeless people. Obama was our biggest teacher.
Honestly, yeah. To not call any names or anything, you know who you are.
I'm not as developed as you.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
On my journey, I call names.
Honestly, I don't care. Only because everything is a phase of time, and
absolutely
within yourself. There'll be a time when politics is important. There'll be a time when politics is not. There'll be a time where relationships are, and each of us, especially get older, you've lived through relationships. You're a totally different person. Totally different personality. You go to another relationship, totally different person, totally different personality. It's not till you look back and you look at that person and say, my God, who was I then? Anyhow, I would digress. The third week we get into the ancestral stuff, because we realize get it in young, get it in early, because we want to keep ourselves honest. We have to keep ourselves in a situation that as soon as you get through that whole process, you can feel the change within yourself. You can feel the silence in your mind, because the biggest thing, the voices stop. You don't hear them. You only hear who you're talking to. And it allows you much more space to be yourself and to see all the other ideas and the programs you've adopted from people to say, do it this way, do it that way, and actually be able to challenge it and say, well, what is the value of doing it that way? What is the value of doing it this way? And also to judge me as well, because in honesty, once you've got your ancestors, if your ancestors say what I'm saying is crap, then you can walk out. It's fair, because again, I don't want to be leading people down the wrong path. I want them to follow themselves and have confidence in themselves. Fourth week, we have the classic where I used to have to pay people your spiritual baths all the time. I'm going to get a spiritual bath. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do that. And I paid thousands. I paid a lot of money for this stuff. And again, it taught me a good lesson that at the end of the day, you got to learn to help yourself. You can go to as many people as you like, but you're paying for your ignorance of what you don't know yourself. So we teach the people how to do these things for themselves, how to talk to their ancestors and build their own boss and build their own situation so that they're in a scenario where if they go out into the world one day or every day, you go out there, you're meeting people, a load of different energies are attaching to you. As soon as you shake someone's hand, you literally through your palm, because your palm is the gateway, one of the gateways into your body, you shake your hands with all the energy in that person. And that whole frequency has come up into you and come up into them. You don't even want to talk about how much frequency you exchange when you're having interactions with someone intimate, because literally you're transferring all of your DNA, all of your frequency, all of your good and bad karma, you're transferring into that person. How can, and people don't appreciate how much is exchanged until you can see a woman has a child that has the personality of the father. How did you know that the personality was being transferred over? Can you imagine how much was transferred over? What else?
So much we underestimate that we don't take into account when we have the excitement for the act. And that could be many acts, not just the physical act of man and woman exchanging fluids. But the key is as we come to know ourselves in taking ownership of that. Because I love the concept when we talk about government and government not being an external thing, but us governing our operating system and our programming, and thereby taking responsibility for every single interaction that we have and thing that we do.
Thank you. On the higher levels, because we've got 3 different levels to the courses, in the higher level, we start talking about your own personal government. Your mind has a government department in the departments within there that look over all the facets of your life, your love, your abundance, your this, how you interact with things. All of these things are different departments within your mind. Now, these are in what you call your higher mind, but these are blocked by religion. The reason being is you give all your praises to an idea that only takes your love, but blames you for your wrongs. And so as such, those energies are blocking higher parts of yourself because your mind can't access all those different departments to clear it out. And they've all been contaminated by other people uploading how you should be, what you should be, all of these different rules based on ideas that suit them. So you're walking around thinking, what have I done wrong? Soon as you leave your house, you're thinking, what am I going to do wrong? What are the laws? What are the rules? What do I have to fit in? Where animals are just running around freely doing what they want to do under no control. You're purely under control from when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed. And in honesty, you're not doing it for yourself. You say, oh, I'm making this world a better place at the misery, your misery being the expense. So who is it for? Who are you improving things for? Who is better off? Those that are few that control the many. Because if you get the many to police themselves, you have a lot less work to do. So yeah, the week 4, we teach you how to clear the energy that you collect through the day. Week 5 is to clear your home, because your home is your castle, as they say. But also, what we don't appreciate is air is just a rarefied form of water.
Yeah.
So when you're in someone's company, quiet as kept, you're literally having a bath with that person's energy.
Full conductor.
And so, as water is the transfer of electricity and all that kind of thing, you're there carrying on with your cloud. This cloud, this person's energy has impacted you. It's on your body, it's on your skin, it's in your smell, everything like that. And it's in your auric energetic field. You walk into your house and you bring all of that in there. Now, these energies come in and they will look for somewhere to go and stay, hide on your furniture. Soon as you sit down, go into the corners of your room, and they're just looking to generate the same attitude or energy of the people that you've met into your life. Have a big argument within a room. The frequency of your words, because quiet is kept, what you're ever doing when you're speaking is changing the auric field of the environment that you're in. You're spreading out energy. The person's mind is decoding the sound and creating images from it. But as such, you've literally just stained the room with your words, and stained the room with your tone of voice, and stained the room with your energy from your thoughts. And now that room is building the momentum of argument, of that energy in there. So as soon as you come in that room, the energy is now looking to feed off you, to provoke you, to generate you, to feel that way. So we now go through the process of learning to clean your home, clean your clothes, clean this, clean that. So you're now in a position, in a situation where you can start taking control of your environment, not just your body. Every day you wash yourself before you go out, but the energies that you're picking up, you're not seeing that to clear. You have to go through the process to learn how to remove that from yourself, so that you're in a situation where if you're miserable in a room, you don't need to. If someone's miserable in a room and you walk into a room, you don't need to be told they're miserable.
Yeah, you feel it.
You know, funk, isn't it? An energy. So that energy going into the bed, going into the walls, going into the room, and that room becomes heavy. And no matter how much heating, that room is cold. You walk into the room and the room is cold, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's freezing in here, only because the person's energy is saturating the room. So you need to know how to clear out that room, clear out that space, so your place can be light and airy, so that you can think freely. Because if you've got all that pressure on your mind, you can't lift it to look for other things that you have inside. Week 6, we start telling you about how mental, because again, we went through these process, because these are things that me, and again, I have to say, my friend that passed, Jacqueline Banding, we both came together, and through our experiences of going through things that I can't even say online, as regards to, it would be so far-fetched from what people would see as the norm. They would perceive it as, did that really happen? But we got to learn.
It's real.
It was real, because
her legacy is here now with the work that you're doing, carrying forward.
This is why every time I've got to mention her. Of course, people around me, partners, everyone, they're all helping. But again, her and I were instrumental in actually creating this way of looking at the world, because our ancestors came to us and said, we're not creating a religion here. We're just telling you all the stuff you should have known, all the stuff that you're capable of, and how you as a being are not restricted to just what you see outside. That is just part of your imagination. Yeah, there's a way you can turn your eyes inside to look into other dimensions that are alive inside you. Anyhow, so week 6, we go through the fact that your body has its own intelligence, that every organ in your body speaks for itself. You don't know how your heart works. You don't know how your stomach works. You're not connected consciously to how to control those things. So those different organs have their own level of intelligence, much greater than yours. They're all Huh? Look what they're creating here, there, and they're doing it in pitch black. Yeah, there's no light going on inside you
Mm.
to tell this thing to go here to do this. So you imagine the intelligence of what's going inside in your body.
Yeah.
And then we bring that to the fact that an illness is effectively a living, intelligent thing, has its own life force. Otherwise, how could it spread around your body and know where to go and what to do?
Mm-hmm.
And when a doctor says to you, we can't cure this, it means they can't kill the entity. They can't kill the illness, which is a living, thinking thing. So we start to get into that whole process where you start to realize that you have the capacity, because it's your house, you're the king, you can shut down these things.
Mm-hmm.
You can start to tell your body, we ain't doing this. And this is where we introduce the concept that your heart, my heart and your heart can't have the same name. They
Absolutely.
must have their individual name because they live in different organs. So essentially, those organs are, with their own vibration and story, have their own names. So you start to find out what the name of your organs is and interact with your actual intelligence within in
Mm-hmm.
a different way. Now, this is stuff that they knew before, but again, we've been given this is the name. And the problem with language, especially English per se, it's a labeling language, not an explaining language, and
Yeah.
not an interaction language. All of us will call a tree, but when you're walking into a forest, you're walking into a community of beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. The forest is alive, and different forests feel different because everyone in that forest is a total living being by themselves. And if you look on them properly, they all cluster as families, a lot of them growing out of the same root.
Yep.
Because so many people are focused, oh, isn't it pretty? Isn't it lovely? Isn't it this? They're not actually engaging in the experience. They're engaging in their imagination. Yeah. So therefore, we start to get you to realize you are more complex. If you spent time working out who you are, you wouldn't have time for all this politics and this and that. You'd be busy spending time to work out how you come together. Why is it your organs are impacted? Why and how your emotions actually poison your body, strengthen your body. People don't realize the reason why you can't get over someone is because your body's still addicted to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is still looking for the food that that person gives you. And again, it's craving it. That's
Yeah.
why sometimes, when you say, oh, I want to break away, and you're like, oh, but I miss them. You don't miss them. Your body misses them. And your body's creating a craving for them. But you're not aware of that. And you don't know why you feel that way. You feel that way because your body is feeling that way.
Mm.
When you understand everything, your conversation you have, you're literally drinking. You're
Yeah.
drinking because you have to listen, you have to visualize, you have to create an emotion through your judgment, and then that emotion is dispensed throughout your body.
Yeah.
So,
On that point, this is why I don't have the luxury for those stale conversations or to keep that company that isn't going anywhere, because we have a spiritual digestive system that is being fed by this company and these conversations. And if they're dead, they're just shutting down our capacity to operate in the world without us even realizing that we're robbing ourselves of that capacity.
look, we are participating as the old saying. I got tons of the saying, but they were able to take away our chains because they were able to chain our brain.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. They chained our brain to an idea, to a concept where you can't leave the land without a pass to get beyond the port. So
Yeah.
therefore, as much as you feel that you're free within your imagination to believe that you're free. That in all honesty, they can come pick you up, put you away, and they don't have to do anything or tell anyone what's it for 48 hours because of whatever happened with various, I think it was 7/7. So they can put you away for 2 days and let you go, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So you don't even own your body, to be fair. You just own the right to complain. And you don't know when you gave away those powers because you were never consulted on anything. You don't know you're broken the law until after you've broken it, because how are you going to keep up with it?
Yeah.
So we live in a society where effectively we come through a cloning system, which is the education system. And now we're in a scenario where we are trying to live up to what was stolen from us, our sense of self. And now we're looking for someone else to give us back that sense of self and turn around and say, you've done well, you're doing well, keep up the good work. And because we can't we can't give energy and value within ourselves, and we need someone else to do it. That's the definition of a slave to me, no?
I guess our biggest entry point. The minute you see, one of the key things that this cause does is it just removes the need for vanity and approval. And the minute you reach that destination, and it's always something to be checked, because there's always somebody that we apply that status to and put on a pedestal above us. But the power of removing vanity will just cease and desist with requiring that approval that we're trained. When we're children, they give us gold stars. And throughout, from that day forward, we're constantly seeking that external approval. What do others think? And it does nothing to improve our lives whatsoever.
Nothing. This is one of the Western poisons, because our women, whereas people speak about polygamy a lot, especially nowadays. Very few in the West have done it how it used to be done back in Africa, back in the day. Now, because we're more sexual gratification orientated, the people are thinking of, I'm gonna have 2 or 3 wives and 2 or 3 women, so I don't have to be cheating. I'm more focused on me and this woman, the other woman accepting that I have another woman to sleep with. And I appreciate how the Muslims did it, where they had each woman had a wife, house, and they looked after each one individually. And ancient Africans did it the same way. I won't say ancient, 100 years ago, they were all doing it. So it's not ancient per se, but they did it in another way where the woman didn't value herself purely based on how she looked or her sexual availability. She valued herself on what she could do and what she brought as a character or a person. So now we're in a situation where, because they have been objectified, not necessarily by the man who's next to them, it's the ones who have literally designed a system and worked out, due to man's biological need to have. And it's not so much he needs to have sex, because how do we put it? And it's something we speak about in the class, and we speak more of it in week 7, but we underestimate that a woman has she has a period every month. She has to release the egg and create the egg. So she has her 28-day cycle in order to do that. But no consideration is taken to the man who has to produce the egg to fertilize that egg.
8-day cycle.
and his 8-day cycle of sperm reproduction to be able to have fresh ones that have the mobility to swim all the way to the womb. It's on an 8-day cycle. It's not on a 28-day cycle. So therefore, he has to have more sex more frequently to release the old ones, so that it makes space for the new ones when the time comes. Now, because he has this biological imperative that's been designed inside his mind, he has no choice but to seek situations where he can have sex more often.
The
woman doesn't need it as often. She will feel that way towards the beginning of her period, towards the end, when the eggs get a come, then she'll feel, okay, it's time to be ready to fertilize. So therefore, she will feel the need or want for it then. Because again, she's about to release the egg. But the man has to release the egg every 8 days. So he's going to be having that desire anyhow. So based on that biological imperative of the man, advertisers have used that thing that the guy can't help to do, because that's what he was designed to do, to literally sell products. So they know that the man has to do it, and it will produce women that obviously appear in a certain way, so that he feels, he sees that, oh God, I got to get rid of my eggs.
Entry points. Yeah.
Literally. So he can't control that he needs to do that. So therefore, this is used. And then now, because, you know, the product that is used in order to entice him, or the women that are used, now have an opinion of him that, oh God, he can't control himself and do that.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid they told a woman, look, stop, don't have that period this month. It's 28 days. You know what? Don't have it, just keep it. The woman has to release it. Same way the man has to release it. But through education, the man is told that he's cruel, he's this, he's that. And obviously, women are treated adversely as a result of all of this. But we're in a situation where our biology is used against us. And we're in that situation where now we are effectively being used for the parts of us that we can't control in order to control us.
Yeah.
And that set up that whole weird paradigm. And that's what in week 7 we go into, when we start talking about your sexual health and start helping you realize that ultimately, as much as everyone says, be free, live the life you want to have, you know, it's a free world out there. No one's really explaining that every time you physically get involved with someone, they leave their DNA imprint in you. They leave their energy. There's something soap can't wash out. So the guy is carrying all the women that he slept with, his genitals, for want of a better expression, in his gonads, and the woman is carrying all the men she slept with within her canal. And if you realize that the man's semen can actually, the way you tell an old couple is not through how they interact with each other, is from the fact that they start to look like each other. Because the man's semen eventually, over time, alters the actual image of the woman to look more like him.
Mm-hmm.
So if a woman's in a situation where she's had multiple partners and the energies of multiple partners, how deep and how powerful is that energy impacted in her? And vice versa on a guy. He's had a load of partners, and how has that energy impacted on him? So we cover how this is first a phenomenon to look at, and how you start to think about removing this energy out of your system, because these things and these energies are still within you, and they're still impacting you in ways that are subtle that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Most of us are not living our lives, we're living our stories, and we've created programs based on our experiences, which most other people have written. Most people have written the programs by which you're working under. So that class is quite an exciting one, but it leads us into week 8, which is the programs.
Yeah.
Where we actually go into what have you written in a given situation. An event has taken place. The way that you've understood it, you've written a program to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of little information, that little information is going to be the equation you're going to use to deal with the situation. And as such, as we've seen recently, people have very little information.
Yeah.
So once they're given a label, that program that they have for that label is all they want to look at in that situation. And all people do is keep pounding them with emotions so that they're, look, I watched one day, I was there the other day, and my partner was watching the news, and all I saw was constantly sad pictures of people in Ukraine.
There's no news. It's all emotive storytelling.
All emotive pictures and image of people crying. Whether there's anyone dying, I don't know. But all I saw was that for an hour. I said, they're not going to change it to something else. And they did that, which if you watch that, you are drowned in so much pity and fear and concern for these people. But they didn't actually deal with any facts. They just dealt with your feelings. And you're
based on imagery. They pumped the imagery that appeals to your emotion so that your empathy is drawn out, and then they couldn't be possibly wrong in this incursion in any way, shape, or form.
And honestly, by the time you're battered with all that emotion, you don't even care who's right. You're just feeling pain. And the best way to um, get someone on your side is introduce the poison and then have the antidote.
Yeah.
So they've introduced the poison. Now the antidote is you follow what they say, and eventually you'll get the antidote to make you feel okay. Any great movie that you watch, initially a bad event happens,
Yeah.
and the rest of the movie you're waiting for the counter to happen so that you actually feel balanced from the initial pain you watch from watching the beginning. And so
Yeah.
this is a tried and tested method that the people use all the time in
The
order to
hero story. They understand the hero's story and they apply it to everything. But that applied behavioral psychology that keeps us in a constant state of anxiety leaves us as Mr. Confused all the time. And based on that, if we don't know ourselves at our core, we will be vulnerable to that constant anxiety that is caused through applied behavioral psychology. They know the images that they're pumping. They know the misinformation they put out at the same time. So you'll always come back to the official version to make them right. And in that, that's where they make themselves the new gods for our attention, for our collective attention. And just in knowing ourselves, we'll know that story doesn't resonate with us. And that the official version has zero resonance with critical thinking or anything it has to do with self-preservation.
I love it, because what you said effectively is you have created a way to not have the viruses uploaded into your system.
Absolutely.
So as soon as you see a virus coming your way, a story that has no bearing in any truth, but is full of emotions, because nowadays people are more concerned about how you feel than what is the truth.
Yeah.
So once you see that, you recognize, hold on, yeah, you're not actually trying to bring anything new here. All you're trying to do is, the classic, as we said the other day, and I think, was it Kevin Samuels, all them lot, bringing these concepts of the shame, the insult, the guilt, the never being wrong. And as long as they start off with those cycles within you, you're in a situation where you're made to feel shameful, that you're not caring. You're insulted that you're not doing anything. You should be guilty that you haven't done anything. And these people, they don't need to be challenged. They're in such a bad and terrible place. You shouldn't even say anything about them. You shouldn't even ask, is it true or not true? How dare you? And this cycle is just repeated. So all they're doing is changing your emotional state so that you paralyze yourself to challenge them. Yeah, so again, these are tried and tested methods. So as the whole thing of Armory is mentally seeing these things coming along and not processing them, because you have the choice of what you visually process. An old saying that I said years ago, I said, you will buy locks on your house, locks on your car, locks on your window, but then you'll sit in front of a TV and not put no locks on your mind. And anyone can just dump anything they want into your mind as long as they like. And you've got no locks on it. You're taking it all in. And once you're taking it, what you don't realize is that you store stories.
And the subconscious mind is a dustbin for everything.
Look, you can regurgitate and repeat these things on command. Did you see that thing? Yes, I visually saw that thing. Yes. And your body had to take a kick when that story came in. You had to emotionally consume that idea. So your body now is vibrating from that frequency. Look how they can tell people to be, there was vaxxers and then there was anti-vaxxers. So there was a feeling towards anti-vaxxers and now all of that means nothing. No one's an anti-vaxxer anymore because it doesn't matter. The word is gone. No one cares. If someone said, oh, you're a vaxxer now, someone's looking at you like, I don't know if they're right or wrong, because now it doesn't really matter. And this is how quickly these programs can be constructed, because as children, you were taught to trust, what was being said to you. This now is like, we call it a backdoor program, where in order to make sure that they had control of you for the rest of your life, they put in these backdoor programs. And all they need to do is create a trigger.
Yep.
The trigger is a label. So as soon as I say the label, your body goes into an emotional state to reflect how I actually uploaded that program within you.
Yeah.
So someone needs to say, the old classic I was to say policeman, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, what's going on? And your body has changed. You're in a state of alert just from a word. Because that program has been programmed into you. And not that police are bad or this or that, but you, the way in which you react shows you the way that you taught. Yeah? So some people will be in an environment there, police will go, oh yeah, great. And then other people won't. And you'll be saying, okay, what's the difference? You're missing the subtleties of how that program was uploaded to that.
Yeah. Two different messages are being broadcast at the same time to two different beneficiaries.
Because they've been educated in two different ways. So they have two different sets of feelings. But the program given to you is one where your body goes into a state of alert. So once you realize that, the thing that you blame everyone for and what they're not doing for you and not this and not that is the program that you are using to operate, to give instructions to your actions and your thoughts and fears. So if someone owns your program, they own you. And there's a hell of a lot of grooming out here where people are grooming people with ideas, grooming partners to behave in a certain way. When you start telling them of all the things you went through when you was younger and in other relationships, you're telling your new partner that you're grooming them to behave in a certain way, to say, if they don't comply, you're gonna go mad. You're gonna behave in a certain way. And this is done with education, where they're grooming you to follow the system that they have planned for you outside. And in all different places, situations, this is what it is. So we cover that programming, so you start to realize that ultimately you do have the power. Because if you don't have the power, look, you're an autonomous sovereign being. You're the one people persuade you to do things, but they can't force you to do things. And once you're using their programs to evaluate your own life, you're not living your life. You're living their control. Yeah. So we want to make sure people go through that and come at the end and say, okay, I understand now. So I have a little bit of control. When I see someone give me a label, I don't have to fall into that program. I can create my own sense of what it is. Because I know for what you, Dean, how do you say, they gave you a deck of cards and you changed, they gave you a hand and you changed your hand. You didn't think that hand. That's not my hand. That's the hand that you gave me, man. I'm going to change my pack and get something else. And that's how it is. And you have to be in that position where you're not using someone else's hand in order to play your game. You got to play. Because otherwise you'll be constantly complaining. They did this, they did that, they did this, and not have no solution but to, oh, well.
But it's also socially acceptable. And now we've been given the outlet where 7 billion people, or whatever portion can adopt mobile technology, have the outlet to actually complain. And then people will actually listen and consume this food as well and give it value. And then there's an approval from that as well. Just like any gnosis needs worshippers, that entity of vanity that is within us that requires the approval creates the religion, complaining, the problem, woe is me. And then there's an outlet, isn't there, that will give you your worshippers. Oh, with all the emojis, the hearts, the tears, all of that. And then there's a gratification that comes from that. But what isn't in there is a self-knowing. Why am I continually in this vortex that I don't desire to be in, to seek that craving of approval from people I don't know, will never meet, and don't particularly care about?
There's deficiency engineered into us, where people have been brought up to have a poor value, a poor view of themselves, and seek approval from other people to give them the strength to move on.
Yeah.
In the later courses, like you're going through, we start to talk about personalities.
Yeah.
And how these personalities are Our managers, we've created managers to deal with certain thoughts, and these personalities are protections. So vanity is a personality, and it's there to protect you. So you're looking at yourself, seeing how others might view you. Because if someone looks at themselves and say, I'm beautiful, they need someone else to validate that outside. So straight away, that personality is demanding that, look, you have to feed me, because my sense of self, my sense of identity, my sense of value is wrapped up in this vanity. It's wrapped up. So this energy or personality that you create to cope with the situation is constantly demanding attention. Is constantly demanding food, because there's a deficiency in how you think of yourself. You need other people outside to validate it for you. Yeah. So when the most terrible thing they did was reduce women to how they look as opposed to who they are and what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So people are drawn by their biological need for the woman as the need for the person that she is. And as such, she might not need to worry about developing her personality until she's much older, because she will have the attraction of men to her physical body when she's younger. And as such, again, the value that she really contributes, what she came here to do, wasn't just to look good. Yeah, but they're reducing it to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then have all the finer things. So again, end up living a fantasy life, because you can't live the life you really came here to do, and your genuine interest. And the women are the gateway between worlds. So they've got so much value to bring here, but they're being asked to look a certain way as opposed to be that person who they are. So it's very tough out here, because these programs that they're running, or the way that the Western world has been designed, doesn't leave anyone happy. It's like, don't be happy, just be rich and you'll be okay. And then you've got all the money around you, but you have none of the genuine love or attention towards yourself. Yeah, and it's not even, if you love yourself and you're self-fulfilled and what have you, then you can enjoy what you have with someone who is also self-fulfilled.
Yeah.
But if one of you have a deficit, as in you need this and need that, and there's millions of reasons why, then the other one is in a constant state of compensating.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the risk of them not being compensated for what they do. So it's a tough one. But again, we go into week 9, which kind of helps us as well, because we start speaking about past lives. And as you alluded to, different planets and different things. So you start realizing that your life hasn't happened by accident. And the people in your life didn't just turn up just like that. They were planned liaisons. I always say timing is the alignment of two situations.
Yeah.
Timing isn't based on no clock, because you will go to a place at the right time to meet the person by chance that had you not turned there at the right time, they wouldn't have been there. They just happen to have all that you'll need to do and all that you need to go for, or what you're looking for in that moment. And that is timing. Because had you not, if you walked a little faster, drove a little slower, took more time in the bathroom, that event wouldn't have taken place. So all situations had to come in alignment before that situation can come into fruition. So there's another timing, there's another part of you that is planning your day. All you are is the observer of the play in your current conscious state, thinking and waiting and hoping something's going to happen, and not realizing you have the power to go out and make it happen for yourself.
Yeah.
People are waiting for the right relationship when they're not doing anything to generate it. You're just sitting there going, okay, they're going to, find me, walk through the door and love me, and for the rest of my life, happy ever after. Fantasy, isn't it?
Sounds lovely.
Again, but how are you going to maintain forever when you haven't got the capacity other than what you need from someone else, and not what you can give to someone else to keep them even interested in hanging around? So 9, we go through how everyone is in your life, how they've come into it, and start introducing to the concept that there is more to you than what you knew. And you have to climb out of this story so that you can see who you truly are. Otherwise, all you can see is who you are as a, what do we call it, id entity,
Yeah.
where you're just an identity, but you're effectively an entity in an idea.
Yeah.
The idea is your story. And you're now trying to live out your story, which someone else has given you all the parameters that you can live, as opposed to you actually living your natural. Look, human beings, we're strange creatures, because I always laugh at the concept of a rabbit. And I think a rabbit doesn't care about tomorrow, doesn't care about next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It just does what it came here to do. It finds somewhere to live, doesn't need no money. There's food everywhere around. It gets by until it's tired and it's whatever, if it's hopefully not killed, it lives a good life. And that's it. And every other creature is kind of living like that. But humans are down and upset because the structure in place, the money, the this, the that, of course, you know, they say it's needed, it's this and that. But often, you know how it is. Where people will say the negative aspect of life has been around so long, it's now just normal life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they say, well,
anything can be normalized, and we tolerate anything.
And now it's normalized. Now, so now we're in a situation where someone could fall out with their family over paper. Over paper. That's it. It's just paper with words or images written on it by a group of people that have decided, oh, we're going to design it this way, so it means this, and design it this way, and it means that, and design it this way, and it means that. So if someone gave you 10, 50-pound notes and it's 500 pounds, you're willing to do stuff with your body that, and the only magic on that note is the design on it. It's the design on the paper that you're willing to do more for. Because the £1 note or £1 or £5 note is cost exactly the same to make. Yeah, so imagine the power of the guy who designs the images and says, oh, it's worth this. So you unconsciously now says, oh, well, this paper's worth this, so I'm prepared to do this. That's why I say that is the real religion that no one even saw, because it wasn't telegraphed or discussed like that.
Masterful
Trick. How do I design images on paper, and that totally changes your behavior?
That a man would give up his time in credit for 30 days with the expectation of that paper, when he might not give someone he loves 2 hours.
That's good.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So that is the amazing trick that everyone is kind of under in their own way. But we need it to survive. You see, this is where bad is just normalized. And honest, to survive, you have to do that, because again, if you've been in control for so long, you know, they say a lie only needs 20 years to become the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Around to contest that lie anymore.
Testimony to that is Tony Blair becoming a knight 6 weeks ago of the realm for doing exactly what's being done in the Ukraine now.
And everyone disagreed with it. Do you remember the little kids went out to march?
Absolutely.
Everyone disagreed with all of that, but they still went along and done it. And it was never, ever called a war.
No.
Yeah.
So the narrative is created to cast a spell on the masses, where we'll be oblivious to what we actually know and what we can see with our eyes and hear with our ears, because the spell is more powerful over our conscious minds.
Yeah, we do go into that whole thing of spells and explaining that how each letter has its own frequency and each letter has its own image, because we're not looking at the C as a moon crescent or the M as a mountain, as A as a pyramid. We're not looking at these images and realizing that we are taking on these images and they're giving a sound and they're put together to create a word. And in order to pronounce these words, your body has to move in a certain way. Even to say A, it's the first letter of the bed, because it's breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all these different little secret codes are put into the words that we know and impact in different ways that we don't even realize when we say them. And these guys have not just these guys or what have you. I ain't blaming anyone. If you don't look for yourself and do yourself, don't blame anyone else. If someone
This
says
is it.
to do something and you say no, you're waiting for them to stop. Why would they stop when you're not even challenging them? So the concept is to uncover as much as possible so that you can start to function from yourself and not from someone else's program. And
Absolutely.
realize that you go back much further than you ever can conceive. And so that you can start to bring all the wisdom you've connected from past lives, from higher selves. And even though people will hear this, and the problem what they have is that this is why I said grooming is impossible, is very important for what they've done, because someone in a religion grooms you to a certain set of facts,
Yeah.
to the fact that a personality is created to basically watch over the maintenance of those facts. So when someone else says something to the contrary, your body automatically recoils to that information because you've been groomed with information that is counter to that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will speak to you about these things, and automatically a protection personality cultivated by that information will step up and defend you.
Yep.
As soon as you challenge the person on what facts or figures do you have regarding what you're saying, they will turn around and they can't answer you, because that personality was designed for war. It wasn't designed to progress you. You realize when someone's under a spell, when you ask them to say something good and they can't,
Yeah.
because a personality that they've created was designed to battle in those situations. It wasn't designed to elevate in those situations. It has nothing good to say.
Well,
Later, go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, you realize that they gave them an out in the COVID story, because the minute what you're saying doesn't stand up to scrutiny, you just say, check out the science. But saying science isn't science, is it? But then everyone has to stand there bewildered. Yes, the science. What
It,
science?
it was a program. It was a
Yeah,
program
absolutely.
groomed. The people were groomed. Initially, it says, we've got to trust the science. So the science became a new religion. So therefore, all they needed to say was science. After
Say science.
battering you with a certain thing, you didn't have any countering opinions to the science, because they didn't even say who it was. They didn't mention anyone's names. They would just say science, science. And people say, science, program, science is correct. Everything else is bad. We believe the science. And
Play
now,
on people's ignorance without mentioning any form of science
no,
whatsoever. And science can be challenged and is impervious to 360 degrees of scrutiny.
just have to program the word into their consciousness. And then as soon as, like we say, you create the term, no, you create the emotion, you put the picture and the imagery, then you create the trigger. So therefore, they started off with the trigger, create the fear. This is what's going on. Do what science says, or you could die. That's the emotion. So therefore, as soon as it says science says, oh yeah, I don't want to die. Science says, and the program's been set up. And now science is saying, you don't even need to self-isolate. And everyone's like, huh? What? Science says that? Okay, we don't. The one that used to kill me is the 2 meters and 1 meter, where on a certain date, you can now be 1 meter. And on the day before, you can't be, you got to be 2 meters. And people follow that, where someone would say 2 meters. So if I'm there, I won't catch it. Now, one is the person next to you checking your, but because you've got a date, science says you can make a statement, and then now people are more comfortable with you being a meter close to them than they now were 2 meters, because Simon says, like I said at the beginning, the program is written, and you then automatically switch off. Your consciousness no longer fights the information and turns around and just agrees with it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how deep that is? So people are being programmed left, right, and center. A friend of mine gave me a brilliant analogy of how he was in a tube station and he was trying to get out, find the fastest route at the tube station. And he saw all the people going one way, and then he saw a blind man going another way. So he followed the blind man, and he got out the station quicker than everyone else.
Yep.
And he realized the moral of the story was the blind man didn't see no signs programming him not to take the quickest route, where everyone else took the programs and say, oh, science says this, science says that, and took the longest route. So that's week 9. We're still on this. And the last week, penultimate, is when we deal with the language and get you to remember that you've always had the capacity to speak your own language. That as soon as you realize that within you, all your body doesn't communicate in English. Your body doesn't communicate in English. If you ask your arm to move, you have to ask within your consciousness, and then your mind and your body will give you the information to move your arm or to move your leg. It doesn't happen in English. And as you get older, you start to realize this, it takes a bit longer for the arm to move sometimes. And that's nothing to do with the fact that you ask. Is just that your body has to translate that information and move it, and the whole system is a bit more tired and doesn't do it as possible as quick. But the fact is, you have the language to speak to all your organs, to speak to everything inside you, because you wouldn't be able to function if you didn't. You wouldn't be able to do it unless you spoke the languages. And it's not English, because if it was English, you wouldn't have to be taught English. You wouldn't have to be taught all these things. So it's innately within you. You have another language that you're communicating within your body in. And from when you start to understand that, you realize that when you're charging your environment or charging things, you're doing it much more powerfully, because you're doing it directly with your frequency, which isn't in an English selected language. It's just raw energy pertaining to the situation, and all that wisdom and knowledge you have to use your body in language now becomes available to your mind to use in certain ways. So when we speak of magic and this and that and this, what do you think people were doing? They were just commanding the object to act if they programmed and charged it to do. Yeah. So therefore, the power that you seek is already inside you. You already have it. Yeah. All we really want you to do is to gain back what you have, because if you keep following everyone else's ideas, look at where they are. A poor man who's religious is not regarded as a good religious man. So therefore, if money is the measure of whether he's successful or not, then the real religion is money, isn't it? It's not his ability to connect to the other side. And the old joke is, there was no God that invented money. It was man that invented money. So why do people look to God for money when man was the one who made it, and man is the only one who can give it to you? So why are you praying to God to save you unless you're praying to the God of money to save you?
Well, here is the thing. After you've invested so much time chasing a fallacy, we'd almost have to have a breakdown to draw back from that. We capitulate so much of our humanity towards these concepts to be 50, 60 years down the road, and somebody to give you that clarity could only lead to cognitive dissonance. There's no part of us that could actually receive it.
This is why religion is repetitive.
Yeah.
Now, if I got you to pray 5 times a day for 30 years and I told you all of that wasn't real,
it's as physical as it is psychological.
So the whole thing of getting down on your knees to that idea, your body is now programmed to that sequence.
Yeah.
Your body now feels a sense of peace from doing that sequence and feels a sense of reassurance.
Yeah.
Even though, how is it that not everyone follows that religion is equally rich?
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing with Christianity. You pray every day or pray whenever you pray. How comes everyone isn't equally benefited from it as well? Because again, that isn't the difference. My favorite story is the one of the 100-meter race. I tell it all the time, where you have 9 people lined up in the Olympics 100-meter final, and each one of them is praying to Jesus that they're going to win the race. And then the winner of the race turns around and say, I thank Jesus. And Jesus let down the other 9 or 8. So the winner of the race was Jesus, because no matter who wins, he wins. The concept wins. And this is the thing. Not everyone is equally blessed with this situation, because these things are external concepts where you're focusing your energy on an external situation, scenario somewhere to somehow give you something on the inside.
Yeah.
And again, you know, the whole thing we're trying to do is to release you, not because we hate this or hate that, but more because you're the one. The energy needs your energy to survive. So therefore, if something needs your energy to survive, what's the definition of a parasite? Yeah. So if it's a case where you have that energy to give, why don't you turn up for yourself and see what you can do and create for yourself? So this is where, if you have a load of people around you that are self-determined, sovereign, because they know their energy, they realize they're in a game, but they know that they're playing that game. They're not that game. What could they create? What could they create?
Very different
for anyone
concept.
You don't fear anyone, because you know that anyone coming to you is coming with either force, which you know then you have to match, or they're coming with the education system that told you that you was less than them, so you have to follow what they say. And that's where the battles are won as well in the classroom, because the version of stories that are told raise others and lower others. Absolutely. Yeah, and the worst thing is both people are equally the same. It's just that they've been told different things by the rulers of the game.
Absolutely. Within the same broadcast.
Same broadcast. They're just hearing it different because they've been told it in a way that favors others than not. But I don't care for I care for everyone. Everyone's the same. I don't see anything like that, because I realize that we're both equally being exploited.
Absolutely.
We're equally being, there's no one better than the other one, because the people who really at the top creating those stories don't ever give a damn about both of us. They don't give a damn about either of us. We're equally just products to them in the game that they're trying to play.
And the most powerful thing we can do is know ourselves. So, Edison.
Yes, go ahead.
When is your next course starting, sir?
Well, my next course, I've been doing some posts everywhere, but my next course, we put in there subtly the 22nd of May this year. We have an early bird that finishes, early bird that you get a reduction, I think 150 or something like that, which ends on the 1st of April. So it's not now.
That will be the time to apply.
Right now, where there's quite a discount, to be fair, that would be the time. The numbers are limited because you see that less we can say more.
Absolutely. The quality of 8 or 9 people is beautiful. So we have build and share and to take on and adopt the information.
It becomes a little group, and you know that I let everyone speak and everyone is free.
It becomes a family to a degree.
It becomes a family, and a family of like minds in a safe space where people can speak about things that they may feel embarrassed or scared to speak about in other places. If you say you've had this experience or that experience, this is a place where no one even bats an eyelid. They're just like,
it's not unusual.
It's not unusual. It's standard. This, I had a dream about this. This was here. All of us, no one flinches. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I had one too. And we just carry on. There's no judgment. You're allowed to be. You're not afraid. All those people that said, I've got goat mouth or this or that, all of us have got goat mouths. It's the goat mouth society. Everyone has a capacity where they see things, they download things, they actually understand things that they don't understand why. This is the place where these people meet up online as we do and go through these things. Yeah. So
Um,
we got one the 22nd of May this year. I'm looking forward to it because
yeah.
I always look forward to it because it's a new crop of people coming through. But then also, I love watching the change of how people
Mm,
start the first week and then end up on the 10th week, and they're no longer looking at the world in the same way. And they're like, oh, okay. And
yeah.
they can see the fallacy of the creation because we're not looking at, how do we say, there's the earth and then there's the man-made world, and the world is man-made as far
Yeah.
as the story is concerned. That's
Completely.
why they're able to take all the resources of the earth and never have to pay it back, because we're not on the earth, we're in the world, in the story. And these guys can make as much money, and as long as they have armies to control the resources,
They
they
can do as they
don't do
please.
right. They do. The only reason why anything is worth anything is because the people that are selling it to you have an army to protect their word. Yeah, that's why when I saw where they had where was it, in Eastern Europe years ago? Is it the Bosnia, all that, Croatia, and all that kind of thing,
Hmm.
and how people had to leave their land. A friend of mine went past there and he saw all the buildings in the car are exactly as they was.
Yeah.
People just had to leave their possessions and go because the government that was controlling that didn't have the army to protect what they had purchased.
Yeah.
So your house is as valuable as the people that sold you have the ability to protect you from any invaders of that land.
Capacity is very powerful. So, talking of capacity,
Go
one of the things that I've got from the course that is very powerful has been the cowrie shells in terms of communicating with my people,
Yeah.
and the oils
Yeah.
for protection,
Mhm.
healing, and clearing spaces. Tell us about some of the products on your website.
Okay. The oils, of course, we've had from day one, but they were the understanding from the language that everything inside you has been designed with your understanding. So, in order to move your body to do this or that or what have you, you have to speak a language in your body to do this. Imagine a human body can fix a bone, can
Yeah.
repair a bone. So, therefore, in your body, you must have the language in order to build new bone. The power and magic within you is all there. So, using the
Mhm.
understanding of the language and how each thing has been designed for a specific thing, and our knowledge of, stuff we can't even say online, to be fair, because it's really just going beyond, not because we can't say it, but people are rooted in certain belief
Programs.
structures
Yeah.
that essentially create a cognitive dissonance when certain things are said, because it's so far-fetched from what they know. Can
Yeah.
you imagine that chemistry, your whole body is based on chemistry, which we understand, but there has to be an intelligence instructing that chemistry. There has to be something giving instruction for the blood to carry information from your
Mhm.
head to your toe. There has to be a language that does that. There has to be instructions, and you have all of this within you. Because we
Mm.
always say in the first course, we'll sell you oils, but in the second course, we teach you how to make them. So that you now, with your own language, can create what you need to create to do for yourself. The whole
Mhm.
is to push you forward. So we have the healing oil, which again, put on joints, put on certain um, pains in your body, starts to fight the actual energies. Because remember, if there's an illness, there's a pain, one of your organs are under distress because it's being attacked.
Mm.
Is being attacked within. If we say that an illness is an entity moving its army of proliferating, growing, so it takes over your body, then you have to find and put something on it which is going to counter the progress of that entity, to kill that entity, to shut it down, to kill the pain.
Mhm.
So the healing oil has been designed with that in mind. The protection oil is something where we realize that every time you think, you generate an energy into your environment. Everything
Mhm.
every feeling. We say your skin doesn't hold your thoughts and your energy. So therefore, someone can smell your fear. Someone can smell your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Someone can see, or as soon as they come near you, they get a feeling because the energy that you're generating is being decoded by them. And the emotion that you're feeling is now being shown in their mind, and they get a gut. What do we say? Intuition. When it's just
Mm-hmm.
intuition, your body is teaching you that this frequency outside of you has a certain resonance, and this is what it actually means. So
Yeah.
the protection oil starts to generate an auric or protection field. So when people smell it, it's a very sweet smelling oil.
Yeah.
It then creates, and because of what we said and the energy that we put into it, it puts a protective barrier around you. So when people smell you, they get to feel a bit disarmed. Okay, oh, you smell like this. Oh, you're smelling good. Have you ever argued with someone who smelled good? You know, it's yeah. As soon as you smell it, but you don't realize there's other understanding and energy that's put in there. So you'll be the guy that the person looks at and say, okay, I was going to do this or do that. But most people, before they do any act on you, they have to first evaluate you.
Mm-hmm.
First have to look at you, look at your energy and say, can I get away with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as soon as they make that decision, they're going to go for it. And this is where you've put energy into the oil. So essentially, you're less likely to have that decision made. They're going to see you, feel you, and say, oh, let this one go. Because you know what you put in, you understand how the process that goes in their mind to create that decision. And that energy is now what they're smelling as soon as they've encountered the oil.
Yeah.
The space clearing one is connected to your home, your house, your space, because effectively, every time we think or feel something, especially in our bed, especially in our clothes, we're charging our bed, we're charging our environment. You know, when they say they got lucky drawers, yeah, where whenever they wear these drawers, they get lucky because they've had a good moment whilst wearing those clothes, and they've charged the clothes with the magnetic
Mm-hmm.
capacity to bring that event to them. So whenever you put this thing on, you feel a sense of confidence because you always exude confidence when you've got that. And when you're walking around, this jacket is held that feeling of confidence, and it spreads around you like your own field of bringing stuff to you.
Yeah.
But sadly, the reverse is also the case. So if a bad event has taken place, or you felt down in yourself or not felt great in yourself, especially when you're sleeping, especially with your partner, especially when you can't sleep, you're discharging all that frequency into your bed.
Mm-hmm.
And staying there. It's staining. The energy of the bed is stained. This is why in the olden days, you didn't go in and just sat on someone's bed. You asked for permission.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be bringing your negative energy and putting it onto their bed. So it
Mm-hmm.
impacts them subsequently.
It's very real.
Yeah. So therefore, this was something, the energy clears the bed, clears the frequency, clears all the buildup that you've had so that you'll have a restful sleep. And again, certain other things that people go through, sleep paralysis, all these different things we discuss on the course, that essentially it really starts to eliminate all of that. And the last one, dragon blood, we always say it's for the problems we wish you never had, but it's if you've got a much stronger energetic connection, because there's people walking around with pains in their back that seem to never go,
Mm-hmm.
especially pains generated from the very center of your back in between your shoulder blades, because there's certain entry points where certain energies can enter into your system from the top of your head, the center of your back, the palms of your hands, at the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
So therefore, in situations like that, certain energies can attack and attach to you and almost be vampire-ish or parasitical, where they're just taking your frequency and taking your energy. So this was designed for those situations where it's a bit stronger than the healing oil and you are under some sort of energy attack. So therefore, you need this in order to help you start to manage yourself in a better way. And I think that's the four. Yeah, that's the
That's
four.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We're introducing frankincense as well, so that you can start to clear your place and clear
Hmm.
the energy in your thing, because plants retain the knowledge of how to clear energy in their space. Human beings have forgot. That's why we're so reliant on religion and everything like that.
Mm.
The incense has the capacity because it's actually the cell sap of the tree. That's the thick thing that we have there. The cell sap of the tree, the raw, uncut one, comes in sizes of your fist, because this is
It's
what
very powerful.
the tree, very powerful, fills your space, clears the room of whatever energies that you generate from your thoughts, or what you could have brought into your home from being around certain people.
Mm.
So this is something we have, because we want to have the non-stop shop to clear all the other energies around you. We've also introduced we do readings. We're not readings as such. We teach you how to connect to your ancestors. So if you don't have the time to go through the whole process of the course, you can book a reading, and we will take you through how you do it, how you connect to them, how you can speak with them inside yourself on a one-off. We can do that, and that's another service that we provide on the course. And last, a very new one that we've just introduced is spiritual coaching,
Mm.
because a lot of people are suffering from things that they can't really tell the psychologist or the therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got scenarios where kids are seeing things and the parents are like, oh, the kids are ill. Kids not ill. The kids just come, it's closer to the other side, so it can still see energies that your language has disabled you from being able to see. We have adults that are having things as well. So we want to start helping people, again, in a coaching format, which is not really the class, but where people can come and have these kind of conversations. And through our experience of dealing with these things for, I don't know, 20, 30 years, we've come across a lot of situations. If we genuinely can't help you, we'll let you know. But 9 out of 10 times, we can help you and help you guide your mind back into control. So we've introduced that service because we realized there's a lot of people going through a lot of things and they just can't explain it. They just can't stay. And what do they say? The drugs don't work. They just make things worse sometimes, because they numb you from having access to yourself, as
Yeah.
opposed to opening yourself up and realizing that 9 out of 10 times you have a personality within you that you can't control. And
Yeah.
it takes over your mind and shuts you down and puts you in states of depression and different things like that. And you're trying to shake it, but you just don't have the mental strength to shake this energy's control over you.
Hmm.
Drugs, again, you'll find different ways to try and stop it, but ultimately this energy knows you better than you know you, and it knows the misdemeanors, the things that you've done, so it keeps you locked down in this state of, I can't do anything, I want to give up, because I can't take the bombardment of this energy or voice within me. It's very sad, because we're no longer in the community being prepared to be able to deal with these situations. And a lot of our children, a lot of our teenagers, a lot of adults are still coping from scenarios, abuse situations, all these different things that have created personalities within them that will basically change them into different types of people at different times. So as we understand these things, we've gone through the whole spiritual traveling into different places to comprehend where these energies are coming from, how they're impacting you, how these energies attract more of the same to you and bring all these situations to you constantly. I think we talk about it on the course in week 9, about
Yeah.
how people are under siege from different energies within them. And after a while, the general conversation of pray and hope it goes away, it just doesn't do it. Yeah, the person will take on the what the person says and then go away, and then the voice will jump straight back on them as soon as they've walked out the room. and we
We
understand.
have to confront everything.
Sorry?
We have to confront everything.
But if you don't, you're always going to be in a situation where you're you can't handle what this other person is going through. So you negate their experience.
Yeah.
Tell them to forget it. It's not important. It's not real. Just get over it, so that you can run away from this person and not be in a situation where you're watching them self-destruct and you can't do anything to stop it. So we created something so that we can start to have those conversations with people and help them get through those scenarios as best we know how, because the help is required. There's a lot of damage out there. There's a lot of lack of hope, and people are suffering from mental illness.
Yeah.
Not realizing that much of mental illness is spiritual, because you have personalities within you that you just can't shake. Events that personalities you created as a child that essentially bothering you as an adult. And now you're in a scenario where you just can't get yourself going, can't gather yourself, can't balance yourself to do what it is that you need to do for you. So we help you talk about that, go through those stories, and try and give you solutions so that you can start to redress and balance yourself without necessarily being labeled in a certain way. Everyone is suffering with these things unto a certain degree. It's just some people are forgiven more than others.
Yeah. Well, it's been really powerful. Thank you for coming on, Edison.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome, brother. I know how much it's done for me, and I know how much it will do for others. So check out Edison on ancestralessence.com. Buy the products, look for the courses, and if anything resonates with you in this, trust me, it is very powerful in giving you clarity about who you are and what you require to actually be able to circumnavigate this matrix that has been created that we're in. Thank you for watching. Check out the website.